Miss Convergence. Trinity Star spoke. Thank you for meeting us on such short notice. Both Star and Shining had arrived at the Merry Witch. After a phone call to Shining was indicated that the shop owner had something of note you wanted to discuss.
Oh, that's never a problem, Amara Convergence said. I found new information that I thought you may want to know. You see, I spoke with a variety of other shop owners about the whole thing, and a woman in Hawaii totally might have found a solution.
Lyra, from her point of dusting off one of the bookshelves, blurred. The three adults looked at the teen, and she had the good grace to try to slink back behind the bookshelf.
Yes, that,
Hermione said, giving her employee a disappointed look before turning back to the agents.
I spoke to a woman in Honolulu. Amber Gemstone, wonderful woman, runs the Peach's Paradise lovely store, and she thought the summoning looked familiar.
Shining asked, she did?
She owns a book, Le Livre des Eternités et des Infinités, a grimoire,
created by the 18th century philosopher Lector Dame, who was not actually French, but the French-Canadian. His book was discovered in an archive in Belgian Castle after the end of World War I. The editor looked at Star.
Well, hey, I did say I was the LA Division Special Occult Specialist, right? I have a copy of the 2009 reprint on my desk back in LA. A 2009 reprint?
Hermione guessed.
Why, I only know about the 1993 edition from Mystical Groves Brazier Limited of New Zealand.
Star smiled. A small company in Detroit prints them on demand. The Bureau needed one for a case back then and ordered a copy. When my predecessor retired, I got it. I could give you the information on the company if you wished.
Splendid,
Hermione clapped joyfully.
I'd be most appreciative, Agent.
Ladies, I don't mean to rush things, but can we keep going? Shining asked.
Sorry,
both women said at once before Hermione continued.
Anyway, in Amber's copy of the book, on page 84, there's a spell to summon a being called the Bellwether of Darkness. The Am claimed to have gotten it from a much older grimoire, but if so, said book was lost to time. In any case, the spell calls for a being of great darkness, a demon, if you will, to be summoned using the power of a bell, hidden away by the Vatican, a bell older than time itself. A song will be sung by a maiden who is both pure and a whore, and the blood of the innocent shall be spilled. When done on the night of harmonic convergence, the astral plane will be opened, and a being of great darkness and vast power will be summoned to the world.
Shining blinked at the description. A maiden who is both pure and a whore? Ladies, forgive me for being coarse, but is that even possible? And this is where a woman's touch comes in handy, Shining. Star pointed out. A singer is likely a lesbian. She has never lain with a man, so she is a pure maiden, but sleeps around with other women, thus a whore. There are dozens of beliefs and mystic theories that lesbians have a link to the arcane, many of which are in goddess-oriented religions. Shining shrugged. Sorry, I'm a little out of my depth here, he admitted. No problem, trust me, I've seen all the shit. Star started. Anyway, Mrs. Convergence, please continue.
All right, not. As for the harmonic convergence, I'm not sure about that. If I remember the article from the Celestia House's Monthly, they occur only once every 500 years, with another true alignment not scheduled to happen until the mid-29th century.
Shining grinned. And this is where being the son of an astronomer and an astrophysicist comes in handy. There are different kinds of sizes. There's a square alignment of the inner world scheduled to happen in a few days, if I remember correctly.
Amarik's eyes open wide. A celestial trine. Why didn't I think of that?
She raced upstairs as fast as her skirt would allow her to move, and after a couple of minutes, returned with a book labeled the Encyclopedia Astra, flipping to a particular page.
The square astrological alignment happens when places four worlds in opposition to one another, turning their metaphysical entities on each other, with the largest of the worlds as the grand recipient.
Star looked at Shining. So what we gotta do is find out when this alignment is, and where they would do something like this. Shining looked at Harmonic. Please, I need a list of any and everything around here related to metaphysicism and the like. If something big's going down, then that's where the killer will strike.
Harmonic looked worried. You don't think they'll actually summon a demon, do you?
No.
Star replied. But if their attempt is to going into Bellwether at Darkness route is right, an innocent girl will be killed. And when they realize their little skin didn't summon Satan or whatever, they'll melt into the wallpaper just like the original killer. We have to stop this killer now before it's too late.
Meanwhile, Sunset pulled up the front of El Torito, seeing her friend's cars. I have no idea what I could say to fix this, she realized. I hope Twilight didn't do anything to make them really ticked at her, because it's going to be a miserable vacation otherwise. Hopefully they realize that she's off base right now, and they can come up with an idea for me to make things right with her, because the last thing I need right now is my sister hating me. After finding a distant spot by the front door, she went in and saw her friend sitting at the table just across from the hostess.
Hey, Sonny,
Rainbow called after her.
How's it shaking?
Sunset laughed. How's it shaking, or how they are shaking? We are girls, you know. Latina blushed furiously at that, and Sunset giggled as she sat down. Anyway, I'm doing okay, girls. How about you? A silence came over the table as Rarity was the one to start.
I wish it could be better, darling,
the fashionista replied.
As you know, we spoke to your sister about, well, the secret you've been keeping from her.
Turns out she wasn't the only one who was surprised. The look of Rarity's eyes flickered towards disappointment for a second.
The conversation was intimidating, said Denise.
Sunset mentally groaned. I'm not gonna like this conversation, am I? The flame-haired girl thought, but chose not to voice that. Then she saw the looks on her friends' faces, and her suspicion became cold, hard fat. How exactly did you find it illuminating? In response, Rarity held up a pink scroll, and though Sunset continued to keep her face even, her heart practically jumped out the zip code. That's Rarity's letter! Sunset mentally gasped, not referring to the human girl in front of her. Then, as if on cue, the four others held up scrolls as well. It was all Sunset could do to remain seated.
Could you clarify this for us, Sonny?
Applejack asked, holding up a rather plain parchment scroll.
Cause last time I checked, my parents are alive and well, and not buried in a rose garden in a place called Sweet Apple Acres.
Pinky flipped the bright pink scroll back and forth between her hands, though she never took her eyes off of Sunset.
Yeah, and I don't know why I would ever treat my aunt and uncle like practical strangers. They're more like my parents and my mom and dad are, and I would never be so rude as to just call them Mr. and Mrs. Kink. Auntie Cup and Uncle Carrot mean too much to me to ever do that.
Rainbow produced a scroll that Sunset recognized as official Wonderbolt's parchment.
Well, aside from not knowing who the Wonderbolts are and why they're the coolest, I take a very dim view of anyone calling my sister not my sister,
she said in a dangerous tone.
You know the shit she went through just this Christmas, and I would never say she's not my real sister.
Fluttershy mumbled something, then blushed.
You may wish to repeat that again, Fluttershy,
Rarity suggested, and the part Japanese girl grew even redder.
Flutters?
Rainbow asked. Sorry to worry about the chiffon-haired girl hyperveiling.
I did not find my father attractive,
Fluttershy gasped, then hit on the table. After the safety of being under a composite particle board, she had,
Sure, he's handsome and wonderful and funny, but he's my father!
Oh, I am in deep shit, Sunset mind-worried, and I just had to joke with the other Rarity about how her Fluttershy's home seems set for two, how she told me she was trying to fix Fluttershy up with Discord because they pair well together. She's completely smitten. As if on cue, Rarity opened her scroll and read,
And the two just looked marvelous together, Sunset dear. Oh, you should have seen the smile on her muzzle when he presented her with a bouquet of Judy blue eyes. You must return again someday to help me with my master plan of romance.
She looked at where Fluttershy had been hitting with Symphony.
Well, I readily admit to being the most romantically kind of all of us. I think I pretty much draw the line in incest, I assure you. Besides, Fluttershy already has a beau.
Sunset sighed. Look, girls, I can explain. Rainbow leaned on the table, nearly knocking over her Coke. Start! She growled. 4 minutes passed before Sunset sighed again. They're from Equestria, she mid.
So we gathered,
Rarity commented.
Do you mean to tell us we have counterparts? After all, we know that your sister does, and from inference, so does Principal Celestia. Frankly, if we do have counterparts, and there's another Pinkie Pie running around, Rainbow had, then I think for the safety of mankind, we should be made aware of it.
She then flashed a cheerleader grin.
No offense, Pinks. None taken! In fact, imagine me in a world of magic! Pinky said with a white smile. I can do something like fall into a magical lake and poof! This is me as far as I can see. Wouldn't that be something, huh?
Everyone else briefly started a thought. Flower sanctuary below, Fluttershy added,
I don't think I can live with knowing that somewhere there's a me that...
She eat and went silent, unable to finish the mind-numbing thought.
All jokes aside,
Applejack commented, I don't think we deserve a better answer than they're from Equestria. Seriously, this is disturbing.
Sonny, we trust you, but we kept your secret for so long, Pinky added. We deserve more than just trust me, you know.
Pinky gave Sunset a particularly piercing look that instantly reminded the flame-haired girl once again why Pinky was the most dangerous of her circle of friends. The clown face she always wore was a great mask for the brilliant mind behind it.
So please explain. We want to know. I think we deserve to know.
Sunset looked at her friends and then rolled the mental dice. She knew Applejack had a sixth sense when it came to lies. It was very good at figuring it out. Pinky also had a sense for that as well. Rainbow, always loyal, wouldn't take a betrayal easily, and she didn't want to break either Fluttershy or Rarity's hearts by lying to them. But it's more than that. They're like a family to me. They were the closest things I had here until I actually got one. Sunset considered. Now she had friends. She could go back to life she led when she was first here. She wouldn't and couldn't if she tried. She had too many people who loved her now, and people she loved clearly. A mental image of her family and friends abandoning her filled her mind. The former for keeping it from them, and the latter for forcing them to be burned with it. It was silly and irrational, she knew, but the mind rarely worked on purely logical. I'm already dangerously losing Twilight, she insisted. I can't afford to lose my friends as well. And if it meant lying to them, it would be cross her dear. She briefly thought about casting a spell on them to prove to believably what she was about to say. But then she thought better of it. She was already going to lie to them. But in scrolling them would be a bridge too far. That was the old Sunset, she told them. Just like lying to them is. Sir Constance answered back, and so she ignored that. As I said, they're from Equestria. She took a drink of water. Was her mouth parched all of a sudden? I had a problem with the Dragonfire candle a few weeks ago. The last group of letters you asked me to send Twi came back garbled and ponified, for lack of a better term. The letters got merged with some correspondence I'd been sharing with some of Twilight's friends I met over there. She shook her head. I know I should have thrown them away because they didn't make sense, but I was trying to see if I could undo the glitch. Firstly, I got too uncomfortable at home and left them from my desk. Twilight found them, and well, here we are.
You're saying these ponies could do perfectly duplicates of our handwriting?
Rainbow asked. What writing you mean? And any similarity is probably the result of the merger, Sunset saying. Basically, I think it imprinted their words onto your handwriting.
What about Principal Celestia's letter to you?
Pinky asked. It's genuine. Obviously, Miss Celestia doesn't know she has a Karen part, and I'm not going to be the one to tell her, Sunset insisted, taking a deep breath and hoping a waitress would come by soon. That's the whole thing.
I see.
Fluttershy says she got back in her seat. The five looked at each other before grins broke out on their faces. A second later, they were all laughing. It took a few seconds before Rarity could catch her breath long enough to say it.
Brava! You should be getting off the Sunset, dear. You certainly have the imagination for it.
Huh? Sunset asked.
Did you think we really wouldn't know? Rainbow asked. Look, I've read enough DC and Marvel in my lifetime to know how a multiverse works. And given that Scoot is adopted, I just assume in reality, she's only a younger girl I look after. Maybe I've been so enough that she thinks of me as an older sister. And I figured out after I received those unicorns from Princess Memory's shop, Rarity said. It dawned on me one day that the design looks too much like your natural self. And since Simon was designed based on me, it just clicked. I remember once that Mel and Paul wanted to buy some land in Yucatan where we could build a farm to supply the store. So even thought about calling Sweet Apple Lakers like our store Sweet Apple Splash Up, Applejack said. So maybe there's a place where they did, and she had a sad tone. Maybe there's a place where they didn't survive the car accident either. Well, since given quantum mechanics and multiverse theory, Pinky proclaimed, there has to be millions upon millions of me's, and maybe you just happen to come from one where Auntie Kate and Mom are just friends, not sisters. And even the strangerousness makes sense. She looked at Applejack. Maybe there's a place where you're related.
The blonde laughed. You still going on about that theory we might be related because we're both from the same general part of the country?
Pinky said, it's possible.
Applejack, acknowledging that, simply nodded.
And it's creepy to me, but maybe this other Fluttershy and Discord aren't related at all,
Fluttershy said.
Although,
she shuddered.
Anataka watashi ni tasunero yaba mata kazu ni ano ni mo kimiwari,
she murmured.
Translation from Reboot, please,
Rainbow asked, and Fluttershy glared at her.
Fine, I get it.
In case you guys are wondering, she said it's still pretty creepy if you ask me. Shorthand.
So your secret's laid bare for us,
Rarity commented. Anise, I hope this was a prelude to admitting the truth instead of lying to us, because Sunset, we would hate that. Because it means you're slipping into your old ways, and I care about you too much to see that happen, Supercube. Applejack added.
Honestly, I'm glad this is behind us now,
Fluttershy commented, and Sunset breathed a sigh of relief. At least until Pinkie chimed in.
Because we can't let this happen again, Sunny. We protected you all this time, and you're going to be honest with us about this. I understand why, and while I'm a little hurt you wouldn't admit it, thanks for speaking for all of us that way. I say we understand.
So he turned serious again and said,
But this isn't just about us. It's about your family. What you should have told them a long time ago. It's 2 weeks until the adoption, and they still know nothing, Sunny. This is your family we're talking about.
Pinkie, what am I supposed to tell them? Sunset asked. How am I supposed to tell them? With words. Applejack commented. With true, honest words. That's what I'll do if I was your president. She looked at Sunset with both sympathy and confusion. And I don't know why you won't tell them. This is your family. They love you. Whatever you really are doesn't change who you really are, girl.
But this much is true, Rainbow said. The longer this goes on, the deeper the fight gets. Your sister already figured out that you have a secret that you refuse to admit. What you dragged us into. How long until the rest of your family figures it out? Or worse, they misunderstand. Your mother is best friends with the principal and vice principal of our school. Honestly, I'd be worried about that just on that alone, given they know too. Sunny, speaking as someone who just had her family life return to normal for the first time in a decade, you can't afford this, Fluttershy intoned. Look at what a good intentioned lies my parents told me did to my relationship with my father. You were there for the whole patching up mess, all its wounds and scars. I don't want to ever see you go through that kind of hell. Since you're headed in a direction without my help, and I refuse to enable that.
This is the part where we show you we care, even if we don't want to do this. Applejack said, this is where the tough love comes in.
Tough love?
Sunset asked, already liking that last line even less than a conversation that was unsavory to begin with. Pinkie looked at Sunset directly, blue eyes boring into silence.
Sunset, you tell your family the truth by the time we get back from Modesto, she began.
Sunset swore that despite being midsummer, the whole temperature dropped more than a few degrees. Or,
we tell them everything,
the kind of handy girl finished.
Everything.
What? Sunset gasped. You can't! A sad look came over Rarity's face as he said, Oh, I assure you we can, darling. And I also promise you that we win. Please understand, we're doing this for your sake. We don't take pleasure from this at all. But it has to be done, Applejack added. Either you do it, or we'll do it for you.
I'll ensure it happens.
The girls froze as one, turning directly to the speaker behind Sunset. Sunset turned around, knowing who the voice belonged to, and how exactly fucked she was now. Sure enough, when she finally got her view, there stood Princess Celestia. Principal Celestia. The educator was dressed far more casually than he'd ever seen her before. In a camisole, tight-fitting jeans that accented her body. Boing! She had her hair in long flowing ponytail draped over her right shoulder. On her arm was that of a well-muscled man, who Sunset hadn't seen before, but based on conversation with her mother, was clearly Celestia's boyfriend.
Celestia leaned over and kissed the man. Sable, honey, would you find us a table? I need to talk to my students for a moment.
Sure, he said with a grin. I'll go flirt with the hostess for a bit. She briefly glowered at him before a lovely smile returned to her face as he walked off.
Is it love grand?
She said to the girls, only to see the shocked expressions they wore.
Sunset, you of all people should have known about this. I'm pretty sure Vel had to have mentioned him by now.
Sunset, in turn, turned to her friends with a hurt look on her face. Did he betray her?
No more than you just did to them,
the voice in the back of her mind reminded him. Seeing the expressive pain on her friend's face, Pinkie shook her head.
This is as much a surprise to us as you,
she admitted. Seeing potential rift in the making, Celestia put her hand on Sunset's shoulder.
Sunset, my boyfriend and I just happened to stop here based on Luna's suggestion. So it's a complete coincidence we're here the same as you. But if I may also add, color me surprised to see you all here discussing the same subject you and Luna went through the other day.
The girls all looked at Celestia, as she knew that whatever she was going to say, they'd probably agree.
Frankly, as your educator, I wholeheartedly agree with their ultimatum. She would have dealt with this by now. And in fact, I'm going to take it one step further. If you do not come clean by the time you return from your vacation, my sister and I will gather these girls and their families
and we will tell them all, including what you briefly became. Her face became a picture of sobriety as he added, technically, your very presence put these girls in terrible danger, especially given what happened just a couple of months ago. I dare say they might even be in more danger than a serial killer running around targeting young women your age. A horrifying look came over Sunset's face. Applejack intervened. Thank you, pardon, Principal. Well, how did you know about our trip? Celestia smiled. Did you forget your mother and Luna are friends? Your mother actually acts Luna for contestants, given that my mother's been to Modesto more than a few times. Rainbow worked royally at the point at Sunset. I think you just short-circuited my teeth. Celestia moved over to face Sunset and saw the genuinely terrified look on the girl's face. Guilt crossed the educator's visage to zoom in. Sunset, I meant everything I said to you nearly a year ago. Your mother is my best friend, and so for me, this is personal. I know you changed. No one understands that more than I do. But we've all had this time to tell them the truth, and what happened the other day only shows this is the lone area where you're afraid of change. But lives of a mission are still lives, Sunset. I care too much to see you do this to yourself. Celestia embraced the girl, adding, You're a wonderful young woman, one I'm proud to see grown into the person you were always meant to be. But I can't watch you slide back into your old ways. This has to end, Sunset. But if they find out, they won't want me anymore, Sunset sobbed, her eyes starting to fill with tears. I'll be alone again. Do you really think those who love you? The older woman replied. They adore you unconditionally and trust you completely. That's what families do, after all. I truly hope you learn this for yourself the easy way, rather than the hard. She wiped the girl's tears from her eyes and said, I believe in you, Sunset. Don't prove me wrong. Does getting to a test for anyone else? Rainbow asked, nobody in particular. Rainbow, for the past few years since we started this journey, I have gone from a fic about Sunset trying to get used to her family life, going to saving Twilight from some sort of curse, to a werewolf demon having to deal with Sombra's legacy, to now a full-on conspiracy involving demon summoning, secret agencies, and sirens. Dash, this has gone from intense to holy shit, what did I get myself into? I realized she might have gotten too far. Celestia backed off. Sorry to interrupt your meal, girls. I'll see you back at school in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, and not sooner than that. Not sure she should say anything further. Celestia opted to walk away. Okay, well, that was a bit too awkward for my taste, Applejack agreed. Rainbow's right. That was a bit more than hair raising, but Miss Celestia's right. This time, finally the waitress came with a menu, and Sunset rose her seat. I think I lost my appetite. I'm going to head home now. See you girls tonight. Sunset, please don't go, Rarity said, genuinely regretful. We didn't mean to hurt you. We're doing this because we care. I want the best for you, truly. I don't see how could this be the best for me. Because sometimes, Sunset, Pinkie said in a stark tone, you do something that's for the best and that people don't like. And you need to hate yourself and others for. Sunset froze into steel in Pinkie's voice as she turned to look at her friend. Noticed the girl's hair was straightening and her warm blue eyes were becoming frostier than Alaska. Never a good sign. What are you talking about? Sunset asked. That thing you did to me. That I did to myself. That I hated you for a long time for. Pinkie said in a small voice. I'll forever hate myself for. Rarity realized it instantly, her eyes wide. No, Pinkie, you don't have to. You don't have to what? Oh, shit, Applejack said as realization kicked in. Rainbow and Firesight said nothing. What could he say? All four knew something was about to happen. Chances of stopping it were about as possible as holding back a train with a newborn baby. What's going on? Sunset inquired, looking at her friends with worried looks not directed at her. Sunny, Pinkie spoke. She looked vulnerable right now. The brilliant, happy-go-lucky girl was gone. Placed someone quivering and shaking. I did something I never should have done. Something that made me hate you for what you did to me. For what I did to myself. What are you saying? Do you remember November in our freshman year? There was this guy I was completely in love with.
Do you remember Royal Atlas? A nostalgic look came on her face as tears of either joy or sorrow came. Cute as hell, beautiful blue hair and green eyes. Never been in love with anyone the way I loved Atlas. I think he was the first person that ever made me feel like I was a woman.
Yeah, he was aware, that was for sure, Sunset agreed. Whatever happened to him? Didn't he move at the end of the year? Pinky didn't answer, and Pinky was going to look like she was going to break apart.
Pinky?
Still no answer came from the girl. Sunset went to her friend's side. Looking as the normally chipper girl buried her face in the crook of her arm, softly sobbing. Please, you're scaring me.
Good!
Pinky sighed, suddenly glaring at Sunset with raging intensity.
You should be!
There was a rage in Pinky's eyes that Sunset had never seen before. But she knew what it was. The hatred the other girl had felt for so long. Pinky was caught up in those emotions now, while fury being unleashed right now reminded her of the time seeing Princess Celestia departed on bad terms. Sunset felt herself go numb as she looked up at Pinky's eyes. She could see they were filled with the same hatred she felt so long ago. Massive inferno of emotions directed straight at Sunset. The flame-haired girl fell backwards out of her seat. Second later, she felt something less numbing. The cold tilted floor hit her head. Rainbow rested Sunset's side and held her up. You okay? Sunset got back to her feet, ignoring the scene they just caused. Am I okay? The former unicorn parroted. Is she okay? She pointed to Pinky, who was crying, being held by Rarity and Fluttershy. Applejack came over. I think you better leave, Sonny. Why? What did I do wrong? Sunset asked. It's the plastic keep. Applejack said in a sad voice. We can talk about it later, but right now, the last thing you need is for Miss Celestia to come over here, okay? Sunset looked over, and sure enough, Celestia was looking in the direction. Looking at her face of Kate, there was a mental debate as whether she should get involved. Please, Sonny, this is gonna be hard as is. Okay, Sunset said, grabbing her purse. I think I lost my appetite anyway. I'll talk to you girls tonight. She managed to make it as far as the front door when Applejack stopped her. Sonny, please don't think this is anything against you. Applejack insisted. This is all where under the bridge. It's in the past. No, it damn well isn't, Sunset said, her voice thick with confusion. A bit of fear she wasn't so much being asked to leave. The restaurants must have had to do with leave their lives. If she's acting like this, it was never over to begin with. For a change, it was a short bit of respite from the hell that the five girls had dumped themselves, the silent resistance unit were enjoying. Tazio was reading a book, Arya was throwing daggers at a makeshift dartboard she had made on the wall on the far side of the room, and Sanaa was looking out the window at something. Neither Sunnyside nor Evergreen Pine were being seen, though in the room to the side, hearty smells wafted into the room.
Well, I'm so jealous, Sanaa said, smelling the air. Can you smell that?
Yeah, and it's making me hungry, Tazio said. Didn't know either of them could cook.
Sonny, I wouldn't worry. I still think you're the best cook.
Arya lazily threw another knife, this one bouncing off the first wall and landing blade down on the ground. As she was just giving off, she wasn't trying for her best score anyway. Son, bless.
Thanks, sis.
Soup's on! Both Side and Evergreen came out of the room, carrying foodstuffs.
Since we were taking it easy for the moment, I thought we could do with something a little more on the go than fast food and MREs.
The three girls came over to the table on a heartbeat.
Wow, you managed to dig up all this?
Evergreen nodded. The market across the street is still abandoned, and the owner hasn't been by to check it yet. I rated all I could and left us some money for his trouble. I'm sure he'll notice the store's been broken into, but I'm thinking he'll flip when he realizes the food's been paid for. Dazio looked at the bowls. Is that French onion soup? I haven't had a decent one since we were in Paris. Arya took a look at the rest of the food.
Is that chicken terrapanino? I think I've gone back to Venice.
Sam nodded briefly, but Dazio put her arm around her sister's shoulder. Hey, don't sweat it, Sonny. Out of the three of us, you're still the best cook.
I know. I was just thinking this reminds me of the cafe,
Sanaa said. Oh, that's right. Evergreen commented as he passed the bowls and sandwiches to East Siren. Your soul said that you three had been here a long time. How'd that go? You know, lived like normal girls. Got jobs. Made friends. Tazio said, looking at her sisters. If you undercover op lasted long enough, we probably would have gone to high school here. This would have been interesting.
I liked working in the cafe, Sanaa said. Hanging with our friends, living like normal people. Sonny.
Arya began, but couldn't finish the sentence. She knew how her sister felt, because she felt the same way. The three younger girls eventually came to an uncomfortable silence, which was more said than it could. Sunny and Evergreen looked at each other.
Hey, we know how you feel. We got enough when we were ages. Had to infiltrate a Parisian cafe and frequented by a Cuban diplomat. We got to enjoy our times there, and we decided that when we eventually leave the Sirens, we're gonna start our own place somewhere here in the U.S.
Evergreen grinned.
We even came up with a name, the Candy Sisters. You see, Sis knows how to cook the regular stuff, but I especially know how to make confections. Learn from the FCs and the Bonaze Pizzazz. Trust us, we know how you want to be normal girls. Because we want to be too. Side nodded. I think if you ask most of the sisterhood in private, they all want to be normal girls. After all, none of us chose this life.
Dacia was about to add something when one of the computers shined. What's that? Sanaa looked from her seat and ran over to the computer.
Looks like the next part of the encryption got cracked,
she said, dropping down in a chair in front of it. Her fingers started racing over the keys as the other girl's attentions were now caught.
This for real?
Sighed asked as she looked over Sanaa's shoulder.
Yeah, looks like it,
Sanaa answered, not taking her eyes as a system she typed along. Then looked away and pointed at the screen ahead.
What this shit is, I got no idea.
The rest of the bizarre glyphs moved across the screen. Things that weren't even recognizable. They were nothing like they had seen before. Most likely, hating the common languages on the planet.
What the fuck is this shit? Arya asked. Moon runes? Says the Chinese girl,
Evergreen said.
Hey, I'm 100% all Canadian, girl, the PTL team replied with a grin. Either way, Chinese does not look like that.
Hey, that actually looks familiar, Evergreen said to the surprise of everyone present, except one.
Oh shit, here we go again,
Side groaned.
Sis, I don't make fun of your hobbies. Please don't make fun of mine. Greenie, my hobbies involve watching hockey and reruns of the Red Green Show. Yours involves batshit stuff. No, I swear I've seen that before,
Evergreen said, moving away from the computer and towards the room she and Sides there.
Be right back!
Something we should know, Sides? Tazio asked.
You really don't want to know, Tazi, trust me.
Sides, this is going to grade our unit performance.
No, this is a personal thing. My sister, sighed. Greenie has some odd hobbies. Ha! I was right!
Evergreen came into the room, bearing a book in her hands.
It's linear A! I was right, so it is true! Green, no, it's not, okay? Of course it is. Take a bet. Where did the prince get his magic from? For starters, we don't know if he actually does have magic.
Side counter.
What shit the katana is doing notwithstanding.
Personally speaking, Adagio cut in, I'm far more inclined to believe in magic than previously. What wine changed into can't be normal. Regardless, assuming that Project against Musa' documentation is correct, he inherited his abilities from his ancestor, Bald something or other. Evergreen grinned with the rakeness of someone on first of triumph.
And where did Balusar de Cadarante get it from? She said with authority. For the Black Unicorn, of course.
Hearing that, Sign facepalm, and the other girls looked at confusion.
What?
Arya blurred.
Green thinks that there was once an ancient civilization of unicorns, Sign explained. And one of them, the Black Unicorn, went rogue and taught magic to several people around the world. Exactly, Evergreen crowed. Now we have proof.
The room was silent for a few moments before Arya commented,
Someone please tell me she's not related to Pinky.
Meanwhile, Evergreen popped over to one of the unused laptops, brought it to Bowser, and headed to a particular site, turning away so everyone else could see.
If you ask me, I think we get an extra involved.
Sign read from the screen.
Golden Harp's Compendium of Lost Unicorn Civilization? Seriously, sis?
Sanaa looked at the site and giggled.
Green, hate to break this to you, but this is an Angel Fire site. The only people who still use Angel Fire are edgy 12-year-olds and isolated conspiracy nutbars. You mean like all the people who insist that the Canadian government would never run anything as illegal as a child soldier program?
Evergreen defended, opening a new tab and sending it to a tripod website called Sirens, Our Canadian Child Assassins Reeled.
Fine point, Site said. Let's just get this over and done with.
Evergreen grinned and went back to Golden Harp's site.
G.H. is an expert at metaphysics and works in the occult support business here at Camelot. Apparently he's well known in the brony community. The what? Bronies, you know, like bros and ponies. It's a term we experts on the Lost Unicorn Civilization use to refer to ourselves.
the dark-skinned girl said with a hint of pride. Anyone who's anyone in the bowling community knows who DS is.
Wait, local occult?
Sanaa groaned. Lyra, it has to be! Lyra? Arya and Dazio asked.
A few days before we left, I met one of Sunny's friends, a girl by the name of Lyra Heartstrings. She works at the lone spiritual shop in town. She's a Wiccan, she said. She's loony enough to make Pinky look like a stoic.
Sanaa shook her head.
I hate to say it, but thinking about it, maybe Greenie has a point.
Seriously? Said asked. Dazio thought for a second. Sunny's got a point, Size. We saw that what wine turned into. There's no scientific explanation we know of that could cover that. Plus, we know for some reason, the Prince and Katana are ritualistically murdering virgin teenagers out there. I've seen enough movies to know that's grade A black magic shit. Put down all the normal evidence we can, but we're running out of time, and this is the only path left. Arya nodded.
Look, I don't believe any of this, but think about the law of parsimony. When all theories are equal, the one with the least logical issues has to be the truth. Who?
Paracelsus Vacuum, 14th century philosopher, Evergreen said without taking her eyes off the screen.
Fine. This is the only way we could go. What harm can it do besides the obvious?
She looked at her sister.
You got the help, sis.
Right. The goofy grin on Everfree's face disappeared as she started issuing marching orders.
Sonny, I need you to start looking online at every possible info about Bowser de Cavanti, especially concerning him in the Black Unicorn.
Roger that, she said, flexing her hands down and cracking her knuckles.
I need the best person at stealth to break into the Caroline Library. They have a small collection of occult books that, due to their age, have to be checked out of reference and can't leave the building. Need everything taken. Leave that to me, Arya said. That's the best I am.
She then turned to Sis.
Sis, you and Dazzy head to San Francisco. There's a lot of cult center there. I'll leave you two to look up what information you can.
Dazzy looked at the clock. If we leave now, we could get there a little after 2. That should give us several hours to do something.
Good, Sai said. Well, get ready. We'll be out the door in 15 minutes.
What are you going to do, Greenie? Sanaa asked. The older girl went over her laptop and downloaded a gaming program.
She's usually on chat about now. I'll go ask her if we can meet in person. Anyone else can point us in the right direction? It should be her.